Good morning. Welcome to the Self-Love Show. We had a very short intro this morning, but it's totally okay. Here we are. I am your co-host, Dawn Light. I'm super excited to be with you today, and my beautiful sister is with me today, Trish Wright. We are the host of the Self-Love Show. So welcome, self-lovers, for those that are with us for the last Good morning. Welcome back to the Self-Love Show. I'm your co-host, Dawn Light, with my beautiful sister here, Trish Wright. And we are the host of the Self-Love Show. In case you're new, go tune in. We're on all the platforms. Go check us out. YouTube especially. We have so many golden gems there. And for those that are new, thank you for joining us. We're just so elated. This show has been a labor of our love for the last 4 years plus. And we're really excited to give this gift to you. It's the place where you can come and explore all the modalities, all the ways we can give to ourselves the self-love, then grow our ability to love ourselves more and have richer, deeper, more fulfilling relationships. And so that's the reason why we do this is because we want that for you and for us. And so blessings on this day. We have an amazing guest today. I'm going to read her beautiful bio and do an introduction for her. So today's show is called Minding the Body with a Physical Therapist with Mari Hercher. Well, we'll explore self-love through the lens of physical therapist who wants to help others understand the importance of mindset, commitment to self-care, and willingness to change on health outcomes. Mari Hercher was raised in Southern California and earned her undergraduate degree in psychobiology and at UCLA, where she developed an interest in brain-body connection and its effect on physical performance.
Well, it sounds like we're just having a little bit of like a glitch today.
Glitch today. That's okay.
It's okay. It's sometimes it's just some of those days.
Yeah.
Mari.
I can finish the bio probably.
Say that again.
I can finish the bio probably.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah. So I, like Dawn said, got my undergraduate degree at UCLA. Was really interested in both physiology and psychology. And then after a little bit of a break between schools, I went back and got my doctorate in physical therapy at UCSF up in San Francisco. And I've since stayed in the Bay Area and am currently working in a chronic pain clinic where I'm helping people address both the physical and like the mental and the social aspects of chronic pain because it's such a full body experience. And I also run a private practice where I take both chronic pain patients and kind of everybody else. And that's more just for like the fullness of the experience as a physical therapist. But my big focus is helping people who have like physical things going on understand how like the rest of their experience as a person can affect that physical stuff. We're back.
Welcome, Mari.
Thank you so much for really explaining the collaboration between the mind and the body. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that because it's still not the most common conversation, but many of us have read the book, The Body Keeps the Score. We're starting to understand with Gabor Mate's work and, all the neuroscience work is that we're really starting to understand how our body, our physical body, the alignment in our body, what we eat is that like deeply impacts the way we think and the way we feel. And I would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you touched on, right, some of the like most important works. I think if someone was asking me the question, like, I want to explore this mind-body connection, and they wanted to do it from a really like science-based, like Western medicine standpoint, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk is a great place to start. That book talks a lot more from the psychology side, right? Approaching psychology and then like physiology as a result of it. And you also mentioned Gabor Mate, who is an incredible author. One of the best books, it's a little bit of a long read, but The Myth of Normal is an incredible work where Gabor Mate talks not just about how the mind and the body are interconnected, but also how like social and cultural like things kind of intersect with that, because it's not just the mind and the body, right? We started to kind of integrate those things in Western medicine. And I speak mostly from a Western medicine standpoint because that's just what I'm trained in. There's so much work from way, way long ago where like people are already integrating those things. But as far as like the world that we are living in, our understanding of how the body and mind work together is new per se, like the past like 30-ish, 40 years. And we started to now integrate like the social, right, the cultural aspects as well. But that really, I think the coin was termed like the biopsychosocial model was established in like 1977, which I guess like in 2024 feels like it might be a long time ago, but really isn't in terms of like integration into like medical practice. So as far as like how those things work together, there's studies that are kind of all over the map. It really depends on what you want to focus on. But from a PT standpoint, right, I look at like physical limitations or how like chronic illnesses can affect the like physical performance. And what we found is that most of the things that affect us like psychosocially tend to be based on our belief systems. So we've all heard of like the placebo effect, right? If someone gets this like sugar pill and they think that it's medication, sometimes they improve. So that's one kind of way. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to pause and kind of break this word down, because I think that one of the things that I like that I often hear is like sometimes the language can be really complicated, and especially if we're looking at it from a Western perspective or a Western medicine perspective. So biopsychosocial, sociocultural perspective, and let's break that down as like a not just in the medical model, but in the like psychology model. So when we say bio, we're talking about the biology, the body, the like physical thing, the organism that you live in. Psycho meaning like the brain and how you think and the things that you're feeling, right? Social is how society or your community or your family has impacted the way that you think, feel, and behave. So like social norms or the way that we like learn how to use language, and certain emotions are more prized in different communities. Like in the US, happiness is like the prized thing, you know, and like in other more like collectivist cultures, contentment is more prized. So people are more seeking that. And then cultural is like how culture shapes your, like how you choose to move in the world, how you posture towards power and privilege, or what you do, like maybe if you go to school, or what, you know, like the cultural ideals that are like presented. So what are like the cultural ideas of the community that you lived in, or like of the US, and what was imparted there. So when we're talking about biopsychosocial cultural belief systems, or like the perspective, it's that we're looking at it from a very holistic, like an overall arching this whole human being and what's impacting them. All right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, and I think that's perfect, right? That encompasses so much of what I'm trying to say, is that like the word is combined because all of these things truly cannot be separated from one another. We cannot treat the body without taking into account the way that our mind affects the body. We also have to take into account the way that, right, our social and cultural norms affect the way that we think and the way that we move. A great example of this is in the US, we spend a lot of time sitting and not moving because there is this emphasis on like work, right? And a lot of us work seated. A lot of us work from home. There are definitely there's definitely lots of work out there that is very physical and very heavy. And we tend to land on one end or the other of the spectrum, where there's not an emphasis on like proper rest in these highly physical jobs. And there's not an emphasis on doing enough like body movement in our really sedentary jobs.
That's such an important thing you're bringing forward, because it's, you know, I went from a very physically laborious job before I decided to switch to what I'm doing now. And then I moved to a seated job, and my body, I've had to learn to like adjust what my body needs and give it to it, you know, through the, and really schedule myself accordingly to give myself that need, you know, like this morning I went and got on the treadmill before I did this show because I just needed to like have some form of movement. You know, I'll do more later as well, but you know, I just learning to like space it out through and get it in around my seated activity.
Yeah. And those things can be like, that's incredible, right? That's more than I think many people are able to do. And it's one of those things that comes with like, you have to have like an awareness of like what you need, which I think is so hard for a lot of us to cultivate because nobody teaches it to us, right? They just want you to get the thing done and kind of leave everything else to you. And so that's one of the aspects of self-love is like, you have to take some time to really assess, like, how do I feel and what do I need? And you are doing it like kind of on your own, which demonstrates like you have sort of an awareness of like what your body needs in a given moment. But that's a lot of the work that I do, is people come to me and they say like, I hurt and like, this is what I do. And I don't know what to change or how to fix it.
Wow, powerful. That's amazing. It's amazing that you can get in there and actually like assess what's really going on for them and help them make new choices and establish a new routine that will support them to not hurt anymore and actually have the lifestyle they're really going for.
Yeah, and thank you. Those things are really like, change is difficult no matter what. And I think when we ask to change like our daily routine, especially our physical routine, it's a really big ask because we get so comfortable, and a lot of us, right, we live our lives like tangled in like other people's lives. We can't not. So our routines are social, right? Our routines are cultural. Our routines are work-based. So when people come in and they say, right, I'm in a lot of pain, but I only have this much wiggle room in my life for change. And so we just got to start there and make something work.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Go ahead.
There's a lot to say about one's capacity, which is really funny because this is what I'm working on right now. Is like, I love how compassionate that approach is. It's like, there's not a lot of wiggle room for change or for like new physical movement. And like really taking a good look at what subtle things can shift now and where they have to go is hard and also like really helpful. I want to share a little story about like just a spinal alignment story, and something that I've noticed. I got into a car accident in my early 20s, or maybe I was 19 or something, and it was like a side whiplash thing. And now the top vertebrae, the atlas, goes out every so often. But I was getting really depressed, and I was getting really nauseous, and I couldn't feel it here. Like, it wasn't a thing here, but I could feel like the physical, like the depression in my body was a lot to do with this. And so when I finally had someone adjust me, it shifted everything. The migraine stopped, the nausea stopped, and I was like, oh my God. And so it just really hit me really like hard, that how like your toe being out can like literally shift all the way up, or how, like that subtle food sensitivity is just like shifting the way that you feel about the day, or like you have a little bit too much gas and you're not, like, and that just shifts you, like your whole emotional capacity. So
Yeah, that's an incredible story, right? And like, that's the stuff that we love to hear, because, right, you come in and posture is one of the big things, because there's also studies on how posture can affect like your mindset. And right, they like the power pose studies right before the interview, like going, like getting big and like allowing yourself to like take up space can like improve confidence and performance. And those things work the reverse direction. So if you are, in a physical sense, like out of alignment, it makes sense that you would feel out of alignment in other ways as well. And that's the thing doctors don't love to tell you, right? Because you tell them like, oh, I like feel a little funny, like this thing feels like it's not quite in the right place, and they're kind of like, well, do some exercise about it, and then, check back in. And I think a lot of the time you have to take a deeper dive and like really assess those things, right? Like, do I have that little food sensitivity, and is it really okay to ignore it? Or like, actually my shoulder has felt really weird for like 6+ weeks. Maybe I should go get it checked out. Like, even these little things, I think it's important to pay attention to. And what I ask people when they come to me and they're like, yeah, this thing feels, it's kind of been there and I've kind of just been ignoring it. I usually ask them, like, if you leave it as it is, do you think it'll be the same in 10 years? And they're usually like, oh, well, no, probably not. So like, when people are like, they're moving through stuff and they're having a little bit of trouble trying to make change, I ask them, like, like, if you, the way that you're approaching this thing now, or the way that you're feeling right now, if you continue living the same way, you continue thinking the same way, you continue functioning in your relationships the same way, will it still feel okay in 10 years? And sometimes the answer is yes. And it's like, okay, cool. Then like, we don't need to make this a priority. But a lot of times the answer is like, oh no, that actually seems like it would be really bad. So we want to like take the tiny things and keep them from snowballing.
It's really important, what you're bringing forward. Most of us, life is so stacked, right? Especially in the United States, it's more fast paced. We have like heavy workloads. Cost of living is exponentially high. Food cost is high, like especially in California, and I mean, it's gone up everywhere, and so it creates a sense of pressurized reality for people, and then that stacks upon the leisure way of life of getting the actual rest we need and adequate sleep and good quality food. And there's all these things that we need that are actually our true needs to actually have a high quality functioning reality, so that we can move up towards the hierarchy of needs, right? Like self-actualization, and not just be in survival consciousness. And taking care of our body is a very important piece to that equation. If we don't have our health, we don't have anything, right? We can't function at a good quality level to be even able to serve and give to others if we're not able to, feel good in our body. you're grumpy, you don't feel good, then you're not going to be able to be in like the highest service if you're not well, so you really bring a beautiful gift to people's lives to help them move back into a state of like, homeostasis, balance, bring the joy back into their daily living experience, which is really important.
Yeah. And you mentioned that hierarchy of needs, right? And I think it's a really awesome way to think about how this stuff also ties together. Because like the practice that I guess that I'm going to teach is kind of like looking at each of those things kind of on the hierarchy and taking them from the stack to kind of looking at them laterally and saying like, okay, well, how do each of these things look in my life and which one needs the most attention, right? What do I move to the base of my pyramid? Because it's going to look a little bit different for everyone depending on where you are at in life and what you have on your plate.
Well, let's do it. Lead us into it.
So, right, just to preface, right, I'm a physical therapist. I'm not a mental health therapist. I work very closely with them on my team. So a lot of the information that I'm presenting as far as addressing that has been passed through them, but I'm very much like not that professional. So general information in that regard. But when we sit down and take a look at, okay, I'm having chronic pain or I have a chronic health condition, where do we start? Is we want to first consider, right, our physical feeling, right? How do I actually feel physically? And maybe that means like taking stock of that at different times per day, right? Some people feel great in the morning, some people feel the worst in the morning. How does that change around midday? How does it change around meals? How does it change around interacting with other people? And sometimes that means like have people keep a journal, or they can just make a quick mental checklist and say, like my shoulder actually really does hurt the most when I'm doing XYZ. And right, we get all of that information down. So we have an idea of like in our day, in our week, in our month, how does that pain change for us? Then we also want to look at the environment that we're in. Are we working a whole lot, right? Do we have family members that we need to take care of? Sometimes it means looking at just like the environment that we are like sitting in, right? I spend a lot of time in my car. And I notice changes in my body and also in like my mindset based on how much time I spend commuting. And then we also want to take a moment to look at like our mindset. And I think this one can be the hardest one, and is a lot of the reason that I work closely with our like marriage and family therapist teams, because the big things that we'll see and that like from my gross perspective I'll see are, do we have a concept of like our ability to change, right? Do we think that we can get better, or do we think where we're at is where we're at, or that we decline when we age, which is a belief that I like want to fight all the time, or that because I have this chronic condition, like where I'm at is the best I'm going to be, and like the conceptualization of whether we think we can improve affects these other two realms a lot. So those are my big three, right? How does my body feel? What does my environment look like? And what is my mindset when I approach, right, these other things that I have going on in my life? And then once we kind of take stock of those three, we can kind of pick, okay, now let's prioritize, right? Right now, I feel really, really limited by like how depressed my pain makes me feel or how anxious and nervous my pain makes me feel. So maybe the thing that I prioritize, because we only have limited time in our lives, is, right, I find a therapist who specializes in chronic pain and we address that fear or the depression. And then we can move up, right, to the next thing on our list, which is like, okay, maybe I am like too sedentary and I start a walking program. And then we can kind of tie in, right, the environmental and the physical together. So So that's kind of one example of how I would do that. And I'm curious to see what that looks like for each of you.
It's a great body tracking practice. It's a great like awareness to the day. I'm in a big space of looking at all of those things right now. Like can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You were both just really still, and I was like, oh man. Yeah, just looking at when I'm the most alive, kind of planning my day around when I feel like meeting people at noon instead of earlier, like looking at like where there's pain in my body or where I have the belief that the way that I do everything or anything, one thing is the way that I do everything. So I'm like kind of like really looking at like the little impatient pieces in me or where I can slow it down or what I can get rid of. So
that's awesome. I think like that's amazing that you noticed, right? Like something specific comes out, like, oh, the impatience, or like, giving yourself a little bit more time or like space in your day, because very frequently like we just shove ourselves into the box that like our boss creates for us, or that like American culture like glorifying being a morning person creates for us. And like the fact that you have that awareness and can create that space like puts you like leagues ahead as far as being able to manage like when that stuff comes up, which is great.
I'm also privileged enough to be able to have created like my own private practice and like my own life to a way that I can like manage and work that out. Not everyone gets this opportunity to be like, mornings suck for me and I don't wake up until my brain doesn't like stir up until noon. Like,
Yeah. And it's good to acknowledge, right? Because I have lots of people who are just like, I got to be up at 6 a.m. for work. Like there's just nothing else I can do. And so we just say like, okay, well, like if that can't change, like what else can we modify, right? We can always pivot to another place.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear, Dawn, do you want to share or should we go into what her practice looks like?
Yeah, tell us about your practice.
My practice, it's called Vitality Physical Therapy. It's in Berkeley, and it's like this teeny tiny little studio. I'm also in a teeny tiny office right now, but it's a different office. And basically what I love to do is I love to like take time and ask people a lot of questions in the beginning, right? So you have this physical thing going on, but like, tell me about your life, because we don't have a lot of time for that with our doctors, but like, what else is going on? What are your major stressors, right? What things are you afraid of happening in the future, right? If things stay the way that they are, what are your goals? And changing not just like what we do in the clinic for an hour, 3 times a week, 2 times a week, but making it more of like a lifestyle practice or a lifestyle change so that it's sustainable and also so that it actually works.
Oh.
Amazing.
Can people do virtual, anything virtual with you?
Yes. So I have telehealth appointments available. Working virtually is actually really fun because I get to like see people's environment a lot more. So I do have virtual stuff available. I love to do it, and I'm at work mostly like after normal work hours. I'm an evening person. So if that creates like more accessibility for people, I love to do that as well.
I think that's incredibly important. Thank you for really focusing on the body today, because I think that's one of the things that maybe we miss in the world. We often like idolize the brain and the mind and its feelings and stuff, and it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I'm really happy that people are willing to like start to integrate those two things, because they are so tied together, and there's so much that we can do in like the cyclical kind of like mind, body, social thing.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful work you're offering into the world.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you two having me. I had a blast. This was the first time I've kind of done something like this. So I thank you both for like holding the space the way that you did. It's been really awesome.
Thank you, Mari. Like,
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh my
Well, if
gosh.
anybody's curious, you can find Mari. We've put her link in the chat, and go check her out. Go sign up and get yourself an opportunity to dive into what your main needs are for your body and for your well-being. She sounds like she's an expert in this way and will support you greatly.
Yeah, thank you. Please do reach out. Like, if you want to have a phone call first and see if I'm a good fit, like I'm happy to do that. There's tons of other people that may be more specialized in the thing that you need. And I am really happy to send you like off in the direction that's going to work best for you too.
Wonderful.
And that's why I love you.
Yay. Well, yeah, I'm just going to put my link for my website. If anybody's curious to know more about my work in the world for spiritual psychology work, please dive in. It's just my name, dawnlightamora.com, and we'll put it in the link so you can find it. And yeah, it's great. I have a plethora of information on there. All my reviews are on there. I will be making some updates eventually in the near future, but just go dive in, check it out.
Mm-hmm. Man, you two are just badasses. So I'm so excited that you're out there working in the world. As some of you might have seen, I am not working in the world. I've paused my practice currently, so I'm no longer taking any private or group clients right now. Anyway, but don't be sad. I'll be back later. I'm really working on that thing Mari was talking about, is just really like working on my capacity and working on what I can shift to be a full, healthy human. You know, I want to thank you all for showing up same time, same place every week, just for your self-love and for the self-love of others. So thank you so much. Let's give a big shout out to our amazing team, Roy and Russell, and our mascot, Poppy, for making all of this happen and for making all the background stuff just amazing and beautiful. And to Scott Thomas Love Coach Academy and Global Peace Tribe. And thank you again, Mari, for being here and sharing your work in the world. And thank you, Dawn, for being awesome all the time. Have a good day, and we'll see you same time, same place next week.